everyone, I'm JG and welcome back to Music Forever, where today we're reviewing the new collaborative album from MF DOOM and Czarface, Czarface meets Metalface. While hip-hop collaboration albums are often really hyped up and just really looked forward to, oftentimes, at least in my own opinion, they don't exactly deliver. I mean, there are exceptions to that, many out there I would say, but just lots of times they don't quite measure up to the expectations that people have going into them. And going into this project, given that I am a pretty big fan of MF DOOM and all of his projects under all of his, different names, of course some more than others. And when it comes to Czarface, I'm not exactly super familiar with their discography. I haven't really, done a deep dive into their discography. I have heard some material from it, and I do like what I have heard, but I can't say I'm nowhere near as familiar with them as I am with Doom's work. But still, I felt like this project here did have some potential to work, just given how both artists kind of have that sort of cartoon or comic book kind of superhero aesthetic to them. I felt like that was a natural way to kind of put the two artists together outside of them being just two artists that people happen to like and want to see collab just because I think it would be cool. And these artists have collaborated before on some previous tracks on Czarface albums that I thought were pretty good. And this project right here is once again also, I would say, pretty good. I don't think that it's amazing or anything outstanding or just, game-changing or anything like that, but it's not awful either or even average. It's good all around, I would say. Pretty much what you get on this project is what you would expect going in. You have Doom and then the members of Czarface kind of just rapping over these very alternative kind of hip-hop beats with this sort of comic book aesthetic that I was talking about earlier. You'll have these kind of interlude type tracks or skits at the end of tracks or beginning of tracks that are just have that kind of comic book feel to them. And I do really like these moments on the album. They just provide a lot of character to the project, and it is kind of a character that we've seen before on projects from these artists, and given that, this isn't necessarily a new thing to them, but still, I do enjoy seeing it here. In this project, it's kind of played out, in a sense, like a collaboration, I feel, or just like a crossover between, superheroes in, like, a comic or a movie or something like that. They kind of play that up a bit, and I think that it's pretty enjoyable through and through. And I think it adds a lot of character to, I guess you could say, the aesthetic of this project, because it's not really a story through and through running throughout this project, but I do like that whole concept that they have going on. The highlight of this project, in my opinion, is the production. I just feel like it's very creative, very interesting, and it complements all the rappers on this project very well. It just is easily the standout part of the project overall, in my own opinion. I also really enjoyed the features on this album. There's not many of them. There's only 2 tracks total that have any features on them, but I feel like they're used very well. And it kind of makes sense that there's not a lot of features on here, given that you already have a good amount of rappers on this thing, as it is, given that it's a collaborative project and Czarface has multiple rappers in it. So you don't really need all that many features on here. I feel like all the main artists on the album could, do enough creative stuff on their own that they're not really necessary. But I do really like how the features that they get on here really add to the project. They're not just there to have features. They all have their own, unique aspect to them that makes the project more interesting. Like Open Mike Eagle on Phantoms, where he just kind of comes in with this very smooth-sounding flow that's unlike anything you hear anywhere else on the project. It just immediately stands out as being, a feature, but a very interesting one as well. And it easily is one of the strong points of that track, Phantoms, which I also think is one of the stronger cuts on this album overall. And then there's the track Astral Traveling, which I think is probably my favorite cut on this entire album, which features Vinny Paz, who just starts off this song with a very aggressive sounding verse, much more aggressive than anything else you'll hear on this project overall, and just immediately, once again, it solidifies itself as being a very memorable and interesting feature. And the production is also matching that aggression, but then the track decides to switch over into this more spacey sounding production that I just love how it switches up so nicely into a different direction, and overall it makes for a very interesting song through and through. I think it's easily my favorite track on this album. While there's a lot of things to really enjoy on this project, not everything is, perfect or, outstanding, like I said before. I do feel like there may be some tracks on here that aren't quite as memorable as others, particularly how you kind of have the track Captain Crunch earlier on in the track listing, which I think is a good song. I enjoy it. It's probably one of my favorite tracks on the album. But then you have Captain Brunch later on, which is kind of like a similar song, like they repeat verses from the first song, and the production's different. There's other elements of the track that are different as well, but I feel like it was a bit repetitive. I don't really feel like it needed to do that again. I kind of understand what they were going for with, kind of just bringing back that one earlier part of the album again towards the end of the project, but I didn't feel like it was all too necessary. I feel like they could have easily cut that track out, and it wouldn't really affect the album all too much. I think it would have just made it a bit more concise. Another possible complaint I could see with this album is that Doom isn't quite at his peak here. This isn't Mad Villainy Doom or anything quite like that, but it still is, pretty good Doom, I would say. And, pretty good Doom is still better than most rappers out there, I would say. He still sounds pretty good on this project through and through. And, while I've heard some people kind of call him a weak link on this project, I wouldn't quite say that. I think he's still pretty good and enjoyable throughout the project overall. So, in my opinion, this album is pretty good. It's probably one of the better collaboration albums that I've heard recently, and it's just pretty solid through and through. If you're a fan of these two artists that are collaborating here on this project, I think you're going to enjoy the project. I like the aesthetic that the project has going for it. I like a lot of the tracks here. I think the features are great. I think the production is pretty great through and through. There's maybe a few moments on here that aren't quite as memorable. Maybe a few tracks I feel like could have been cut out. And once again, Doom isn't exactly at his peak here on this project, but he's still doing, pretty good, I would say. So yeah, if you're a fan of either of these artists, if you're a fan of alternative hip-hop, or if this just sounds interesting to you, you should definitely check this thing out because I think you'll get some enjoyment out of it. But if you're not a fan of either of those things, really, if you don't like these artists or anything like that, this probably isn't the album for you. So yeah, if you enjoyed this review, I greatly appreciate if you leave a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future related content that's about music, album reviews, countdowns, discussions, things of that sort. Comment down below your thoughts on this project. Leave a like. Thanks for watching and stay golden.